Mesiras nefesh למען עם Yisrael. Giving, being willing to, or actually giving over your life for Klal Yisrael. Achav melech Yisrael. Achav, the king of Israel. Aleph. Rav Nirya writes, כשצבעתי ואמרתי. He's with Rabbi Levine. He says, I pointed to the Kotel and I said, Im HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hoil להעניק לנו מתנה כזאת. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us such a gift, אף על פי שאין לנו זכאים, even though we don't have the merit for such a thing, הרי יכול הוא לתת יותר ויותר. He can give more and more. Rabbi Levi whispered back, אין להתבטא כך. One should not express oneself in such a way. רק יחיד רשאי לומר על עצמו שאין זכאי. Only an individual can say, I don't have merit. אבל כשמדובר על כלל, but when you're speaking about the Klal Yisrael, the entirety of the Jewish people, עלינו לדעת שאין אנו יודעים כלל להעריך את זכויותיו של כלל ישראל. We have to know that we have no ability to evaluate the merit of Klal Yisrael. In this year, we are going to try and look at the great zechuyos, the great merits that Klal Yisrael has in our generation, in Eretz Yisrael. And it is in general true that we do not know how to evaluate them, we do not know how to look at them. In Sanhedrin, in the last parak, the Mishnah says that there are certain kings that don't have a chelek in Olam Haba, and the Gemara has Dorshei Rishumos. This is source 2, Sanhedrin Kuf Dalalam base. Those that examine what is inscribed or what is hidden. Kulan ba'im la'olam haba. All of these people come to olam haba. And then it examines each one. We're only going to look at one. Li Gilad. The Gilad is mine, it says in Tehillim. Zay Achav shenafel baramot Gilad. This is referring to Achav ben Omri, who died in the heights of Gilad. Even Achav, who, as we will see, is viewed as one of the most evil kings that Klal Yisrael had, right? And we'll look at a few of the psukim from Malachim that describe him in sources 3, 4, 5, 6. First pasuk: V'yas Achav ben Omri hara b'nei Hashem mikol asher lefanav. Achav ben Omri did evil in the eyes of Hashem more than everyone who is before him. So up to his point as king of the northern kingdom, he was the worst. Source 4. V'yas Achav es ha'asherah, and Achav made an asherah. Asherah is a tree that's worshipped as an avodah zarah. There's a general prohibition of avodah zarah. Again, there's another prohibition of putting one in the temple, and so on. V'yosef Achav lasos lahachis Hashem, and Achav did more than this to anger God, meaning the reason why he's doing this is to anger Hashem Elokei Yisrael, Hashem the God of Israel, mikol malchei Yisrael hayu lefanav, more than all of the kings of Israel that were before him, who were not known as such great tzaddikim. Source 5, another pasuk from Malachim. V'davar Hashem el Eliyahu atishbi lemor. Hashem said to Eliyahu atishbi, saying, V'dibarta elav, you will speak to Achav lemor. Ko amar Hashem. This is what Hashem says. Haratzachta v'gam yirashta. This is the vineyard of Navot Karmeli, who owned a vineyard next to him, and he wanted it, and Navot refused to sell it, and Isabel arranged for him to be testimony about him that he was rebelling against the king, so he would be killed and his property would be taken by the king. And Eliyahu comes to Achav and said, you killed him and you inherited. V'davarti v'lav lemor, and you will speak to him, saying, Ko amar Hashem, thus says Hashem, B'makom asher lakakua klavim as dam navos, in the same place that the dogs licked up the blood of navos, ilakau haklavim es damcha gamata. The dogs are also going to lick up your blood. So this is what's going to happen to him because of his evil things. And later kings were seen in source 6. Rak lo hayaka Achav. He was the worst, except he wasn't as bad as Achav. Asher he's makar lasos hara be'inei Hashem, who really worked at doing the bad in the eyes of God. Asher he sita oso Isabel ishto. Isabel, his wife, seduced him to do this. Yisa'av me'od l'lechas achorei haglalim, and he very much desired to walk after the idols. Mikol asher asu ha'emori, everything that the Emorite did, asher horish Hashem mipnei b'nei Yisrael, that God dispossessed them before the Jewish people. So we see here, right, that he wasn't such a great person. But nonetheless, even being the worst of the kings of Israel, even being condemned to not coming to burial, but having the dogs licking up his blood, he's going to have a chelik l'olam haba. So why? Rabbi Akiva answers in source 7. Nanet Rabbi Akiva v'amar. Rabbi Akiva responded and said, Achav melech Yisrael shelo asa ela devar echad tov. Achav, the king of Israel, he only did one good thing in his entire life. V'amelech haya ma'amad b'merkavo nochach Aram. And the king stood in his chariot opposite Aram. He's talking, this is a pasuk coming from the last battle of Achav. And the pasukim in Malachim, source 8, say, Ve'ish mashach bekeshet letumo, v'yakei es melech Yisrael bein hadvekim ubein hashirayon. So a person drew his bow and struck perfectly, and he struck the king of Israel basically in a crack in the armor. V'yomer l'rakavo, and he said to his chariot driver, Hafoch yadcha ve'hotzieni min hamachanei ki hachilesi. And wants to go back. Meaning, v'talei hamilchama biyomahu hamelech hayamamad merkava. But, so the chariot driver wants to take him back because he's hit. And he says, no, he stands in his chariot the whole day. No chacharam before Aram. V'yamelus ba'erev, and he died in the evening. V'yitzak dam hamakei el chek harechev. And the blood, it says, was in literally the breast of the chariot. So the Rabbah explains this. V'yitzak adam hamaka el chek harechev. Ratzei lomar, this is to say, mirov shvichut damo, nigar v'yirdaf el chek harechev, asher haya rochev alav. There was so much blood flowing at him that forms a puddle in his chariot. This is a massive loss of blood. Yeah. But still, he stands up in front of the soldiers in his chariot the whole day. Why? Rashi says, in source 10, Kadei shelo yakiru Yisrael b'makato, v'yivrachu v'tefchilas nefila nisa, so that Israel would not see that he was struck, and they would flee. And the beginning of the loss of a battle is fleeing from it. Right? And the Radak there says, continuing, Shelo hita atzmo mipnei hamaka. He didn't bend before the wound. Elahitchatzek atzmo. He strengthened himself. V'haya machzek ma'amad. And he stood standing. Kamoshayag merkava rochev. Just as he was always riding in his chariot. Kadei shelo yakiru Yisrael shayamuka. So that Israel would not see that he was stuck. He was struck. Ve'irach levavam b'milchama nochach Aram. And then their hearts would be softened before Aram. In the ancient world, medieval world, a king led his troops into battle. If the king fell, the battle was over, right? So The idea of him standing there, no matter what's happening, right, was so that Israel wouldn't lose in the battle. Rav Yosef Ivitz, in his Perush to Pirkei Avos, says an incredible thing about this. Anything that's difficult for you, like the success of Achav and any other similar things, b'misaso, yispire lacha, in his death it will explain it to you. Perush, what does this mean? Ki amad al hamerkava b'koach adam, he stood in his chariot, b'koach adam means with superhuman power, muka, struck, kol yom, all day, Leman lemos Yisrael v'yiplu, so that Klal Yisrael wouldn't run away and fall. Al ken samehu Hashem nagid lemo. This is why Hashem made him the leader of Israel. I mean, what he's saying is not immediately evident. What Rav Yosef Yavitz is saying here is that this wasn't a one-time thing. Achav was always moser nefesh for Klal Yisrael, right? Even if we didn't necessarily see it. He may have done all sorts of other horrible things, but that midah was always there. That midah was, let us say, imbued within his character, even though we only see it once, right? We see, and more than this, that there is an idea in other places from Chumash of Mesiras Nefesh for Klal Yisrael. In Beit 1, B'midbar Yadalach Kasvav, it says, Moshe Rabbeinu is told, Asfali Shvim Ish Miziknei Yisrael, gather for me 70 men from Klal Yisrael, from the elders of Israel, Asher Yadata Kihem Ziknei Ha'am V'Shotrav, where you know that they are the elders of the nation and its shotrim. In modern Hebrew, this is a policeman, but let's say taskmasters here, as we're going to see from Rashi. So Rashi says, Osam she'atamakir, shenismanu alehem shotrim b'mitzrayim, be'avodat perech. Those people that you knew, that they were appointed over Israel in Egypt, over the hard work that they were given. Vayu murachmim alehem, and they had compassion on Klal Yisrael. Mukim al yadam, and because they wouldn't whip the Jews to do more work, right? They themselves got whipped. Mm-hmm. They were moser nefesh, to get punished themselves rather than punish the Jewish people. Right? Shenamaris, it says, V'yaku shotrei b'nei Yisrael, and the taskmasters of the Jewish people were struck. Ata yismanu b'gdulasan k'deresh nitzta'aru b'tzarasan. Now they will be appointed to among its greatness, just like they suffered with its suffering. Right? They were there, right, to take the hits of Klal Yisrael. And so too, right, now when Klal Yisrael is in great form, they're the ones that are rewarded for it. There is, in the Midrash Tanchuma, we can see where I believe Rashi gets this idea from. Because they gave themselves over to be whipped for the tzibur, the Jewish people. Therefore, they are the ones that are going to be raised up with you to carry the nation. This is telling you that HaKadosh Baruch Hu viewed them as equal to Moshe. Very great. That's a compliment, right? Someone says you're like Moshe Rabbeinu. Unless it's a bad joke, it's a very great compliment. Mikan, at lamad, from here you learn, shekol mi shemosher atzmo al Yisrael, anyone who gives himself over to the Jewish people, zochei lechlod u'legdula v'leruach HaKodesh. He merits honor, greatness, and ruach HaKodesh. this idea of even Ruach HaKodesh, you sometimes see in very, very strange ways. Yitzhak Sadeh, one of the commanders, and he commanded the armored brigade of the Israeli army, the only one we had in the War of Independence. When Chavtet November, the vote was taking place in the UN about whether there would be a partition in a Jewish state and so on, he said to his officers, Chevra, if we win the vote, the Arabs will make war on us and it will cost us 5,000 dead. Right? If the Arabs win the vote, we will make war on them and it will cost us 5,000 dead. You might as well drink a l'chaim to every vote. And it was almost exactly 5,000 dead that died in the War of Independence. The Gemara in two places, one about Basar, one in Pesachim, source 4 here. We have a story about Rav Yosef, the son of Rabbi Yoshua. He becomes sick, delirious, doesn't know what's going on, and then he regains consciousness. And in the Gemara, when a Chacham becomes delirious, we assume there's this basic assumption that they've seen Olam HaEmes, the true world, right? The next world. And so when he becomes conscious, his father asked him, right? No, what did you see? Right? What's going on there? And he says, Shemati Shayomrim, I heard that they said, Haruge Malchus, those that were killed by the government, the Roman government. Ein kol bria yachol lamod b'mechitzasan. In the world to come, no one can stand in their mechitza. Right? These people are very special. Ilema Rabbi Akiva v'chaverav, if Rav Yosef, the son of Rabbi Yoshua, was talking about Rabbi Akiva and his chaverim, meaning Nesara Haruge Malchus, Mishum Haruge Malchus v'tulo, is it only because of this that people can't be in the same place as them? Pshita, blav hachinami, even without this, right? What Rabbi Akiva did for the Torah, what the other Hasar Haruge Malchus did for the Torah, did for Klal Yisrael, and so on. They're way above normal people. Leave me alone. Ella Haruge Lod. We're talking about Haruge Lod. The Gemara leaves it at that. But Rashi explains what we're talking about, which is a Gemara in Tanis. Lulanus upapus achim. Lulanus and Papus were brothers. Now, these names, if you know Roman law, are very specific. Under Roman law, a person's name is automatic. The parents don't have choice with their naming the person. It's like it's an automatic thing. These are names that are given to freed slaves of aristocracy. So these people were slaves, and then they were set free by very important aristocrats. All right? And as they were slaves of aristocrats, they probably, didn't have the chance to do much in the way of mitzvahs. Shahargum Turanus Harasha, the Turanus, who was the Roman governor of Eretz Yisrael in the time of Rabbi Akiva, he killed them, in Ludkia, someplace near Eretz Yisrael. Kedamrina b'Mesachas Tanis, like we have a Gemara in Mesachas Tanis, Al Yidei Gezerah Al Yisrael Lahashmid. There was a decree to destroy the entire Jewish people. Al Shanim Tzabas Melech Haruga V'chashtu Es Yisrael Aleha, because they found the daughter of the governor killed, and they thought Israel had done it. They thought Jews had done it. V'amdu ha'achim halelu, and these brothers stood up. V'amru, Ma lechem al Yisrael, why are you complaining about Israel? Anu haragnuha, we killed her. They didn't do it. They're taking the blame. By the way, this is most likely because of their names. They were slaves to this family who set them free, and then they're taking the blame for killing the daughter. All right? So the only zechus, Rashi says, that they had it all, and the Gemara in Tanis, is this giving themselves over, right, to be killed to protect Klal Yisrael. And because of that, right, no one can draw near to them in the world to come. They're in their own special place. By the way, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach used to say that I don't know why people travel to Tiberia and all of these faraway places to daven at the graves of tzaddikim on the hill that's close to us, meaning Har Herzl. There are many people, she'efshar lamod b'mechitzatam. You don't have to go so far. Like it's right here. We see an interesting thing, again, in Parshas Bahaloscha, in the way the enemies of Yisrael or the enemies of Hashem are referred to. This is Beit 1. V'hi ben Zoharon, v'yomer Moshe, when they took out the Aron, Moshe said, Kuma Hashem, Gedeb God, v'yafutzu eivecha, scatter your enemies, v'yanusu misanecha mipanecha, and those that hate you should flee before you. So the Sifrei on that says, V'ki yesh sonim lifnei mi sha'amar v'haya olam. Are there those that are hated by the one who said in the world is? Elamagid hakasuv shekol mi shesonei Yisrael ki'ilu sonei es mi sha'amar v'haya olam. It teaches you that anyone who hates Jews hates God. They're one and the same. It's no difference. We have a very similar thing, by the way, in Shir Hasiyam, right? V'rov gonha taros kamecha. With your great glory, you will trample on those that stand up against you. And in the Mechilta de Rabbi Yishmael, it's not in, there are two Mechiltas, it's only in this one, not in the other one. In Parshas B'Shalach, it looks at this pasuk. Taros menu, ein kasiv kan. It's though trampling those that stand up against us. It doesn't say ela taros kamecha. Those that are standing up before you, God. Magid hakasuv. This is telling us shekol mi shekam keneged Yisrael kilu kam keneged hakadosh baruch hu. Anyone that stands up against Israel, he's standing up against God. V'kachu omer, and so too we see ki hinei oivecha yemahayun u'mesanecha nasu rosh, and behold, your enemies, right, are in awe. Those that hate you, as they raise up their heads. Mipnei ma, why? Alamcha yarimu sod, because they are challenging your nation. V'yisyatzvu al tzvunecha, and they are taking counsel against which of yours which is isn't. Amru, and they say, Lechu v'nachidem migoy, let us wipe them out as a nation. V'lo yizacher Shem Yisrael od, and the nation of Israel shouldn't be remembered again. By the way, according to the ancient minhag in Klal Yisrael, whenever there is a pogrom going on, a war against the Jewish people going on, Tilim Pei Gimel, where this comes from, is the traditional thing that's said, not the things that we're saying today. I think it's because people are so used to saying what we say that they don't bother to say the various things that might be more important. But you see that because these people, right, are standing up, right, to destroy the Jewish people, therefore they are the enemies of God. They're standing up against God. They hate those that hate Israel. They hate HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Those that hurt Israel, it is if they're trying to strike at God. Why do these people hate Israel like this, right? What do they have against the Kadosh Baruch Hu? Moshe Rabbeinu teaches this in the War of Midian, right? Kadosh Baruch Hu commands Moshe Rabbeinu Nikom nikmas b'nei Yisrael meis midyanim. Go and make this source 5 and make war against the Midyanim. Right? But when Ramesha says this to the people, he doesn't say that. He says, gather, prepare people from among you, l'tzavah for the army, v'yu al Midyan, l'seis nikmas Hashem b'Midyan, so that you can take God's revenge against Midyan. God says, take your revenge, and Moshe Rabbeinu says, take God's revenge. Right? So the Yalkut Shimoni, on the spot, is bothered by this and comments on it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Amar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Nikmas b'nei Yisrael. It's the revenge of Klal Yisrael. Moshe Amar, Nikmas Hashem. And Moshe Rabbeinu said, it's the vengeance of God. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe, Din shelachem mitbakesh. I'm trying to, clean up your record because they attacked you. Shagarmu li lahazik etchem. They caused me to hurt them. Amar Moshe said, Rabbon ha'olami, master of the worlds, im hayunu ovdei elilim or kofrim b'mitzvos, if we worshipped idols or we denied the mitzvos, lo hayu rodfim acharenu, they wouldn't be chasing after us. V'lo sonimos anei, they wouldn't hate us. Ve'achshav eno rodfim acharenu ela b'shvil Torah mitzvos shenasat lanu. The only reason why they're running after us, why they're pursuing us, is because of the Torah and mitzvos that you gave us. Hanakama shelchahi. The revenge is your revenge, not our revenge. It's the revenge of the Torah and mitzvos. L'seis nekmas Hashem b'Midyan. To take the revenge of Hashem against Midyan. We have one more concept that's important to understand the importance of Mesiras Nefesh in Klal Yisrael. And that is that Israel reveals Hashem in the world. The Midrash, the Pesikta de Rav Kahana, says, Ve'atem edai ne'um Hashem, ve'ani kel. It's a pasuk in Yeshayahu. You are my witnesses, affirm God, and I am God. Affirms Hashem, and I am God. Tani Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, Reb Shimon ben Yochai says, Im atem edai ne'um Hashem, if you are witnesses for me, God says, Vani kel, then I'm God. Vim en atem edai, kiviyachol ein ani kel. But if you don't make me known, if you're not my witnesses in this world, then as it were I were not God. The Gemara in Menachos has a very similar idea to this expressed. Mitzur va'ad kartinigni, from Tzur, from Tyre until Kartinigi, I have no idea where this is. Makirinas Yisrael v'asavihim sheb'shamayim. In between those places, this part of the world, they know about Israel and they know about the Ribono Shalom. Mitzur klape marav, from Tzur to the west. Makatzirikini klape mizrach, and from wherever the city is to the east. Ein makirin Yisrael lo avihem sheb'shamayim. They don't know Israel, and they don't recognize God in heaven. The Marsha is bothered by this. Neket mitchila Yisrael. First we talk about Yisrael. Chulu. Ta'al yidei Yisrael shalamaten isparsem alakuto yisbarach. Because of Israel in this world, therefore God in heaven is made known. Right? We bring it down. Yacholto ba'olam hatachton. We, Israel, make God, the essence of God, God's power, His abilities, known in the world, the lower world. V'shehu Elokei Yisrael u'mashkiach al haaretz. And when He is the God of Israel and looks over the world, Dahainu avihem sheshamayim, that is the Israel's father in heaven. Avo mitzur klape marav, keven de'em makirim Yisrael, but from Mitzur to the west, because they don't Yisrael, ein makirim avihem shemaim. The ideas, understanding these things of what Klal Yisrael is, what they're doing, is unknown. There was a group in Merkaz Harav before the establishment of the state of Israel, called Brita Hashmonaim, the covenant of the Hashmonaim. And they belong to all the various militant groups in Eretz Israel. And at one point, they asked Rav Herzog Shilas, and in one of his tshuvas that he wrote to them, he quotes the Rambam and he then explains it. And he says, anyone who fights to defend Jews in Eretz Israel, he is revealing and making known to the world the unity of God, even if he doesn't believe in it himself. The Metziut, Rav Herzog is saying, of the Jewish state here, defended by Jewish soldiers and not by anyone else, is proclaiming to the world the mastery of God over everything in the world. That is something unique and special, that those people that have given their life for the Jewish state have put themselves, as we said, in a place where ein bria יכול לעמוד במחיצתן, that no one can be close to them in the world to come. They've earned something. They've earned greatness. And by the way, just because they wanted to give it their lives over, willing to give their lives over, they acquired greatness, stature, ruach hakodesh. The Gemara said, right? All of these things accrue to these people, and I would say that those people that deny this, you can be a Jew and by fighting against the Jewish state, fighting against the Jewish army, you are trying to be mimayeh tatamus, you're trying to limit God in this world, right? Mm-hmm. And that is a sonei Hashem. That is someone that is hated by God. What Reb Shlomo Zalman said, like you to his world, which was primarily the Haredi world, was you people think you have to go far away. It's right here. You have to value what these people do and what they're doing. Rav Gustman, was on Reb Chaim Oser's based in Vilna, and and he once was walking with Reb Chaim Oser in the forest outside of Vilna before the Second World War. Reb Chaim Oser was pointing out different plants and which ones were edible and which ones weren't, and how certain plants were edible if you did this to them, and so on. Gustman was thinking, like, what use is this? Why do I need this? And during the Second World War, he escaped from Vilna, from the ghetto in Vilna, and was a partisan. And then all of knowing what plants he could eat, what plants he couldn't eat, how to prepare this and so on, that became something of critical importance. And Ullman, an economist, very famous Israeli economist, he had a son who died on the Golan Heights, and Gustman came to be Menachem Avel. He said that he was jealous of him because he had a son that was killed in the Holocaust, and he had his baby shoes. I mean, he was a baby. He had his baby shoes, but that was all he had of him. He said, "There's nothing." He said, "With your son, he died for a reason. He died for something. He has this death. It's a death of value." And Rav Gustman once went with Rav Shlomo Zalman to give some shiurim in the Hester Yeshiva in the Golan Heights. And as they were returning, they were talking in the car. And Rav Gustman said, "It's good to see Jewish boys that know how to defend themselves." So many of us, well, very few of us remember before there was a Jewish state. And too many of us don't know the history of what our existence was before that, to understand the great Kiddush Hashem of what these soldiers do. And today, on Yom HaZikaron, these are the things that we have to remember.